Shri Krishna Nandotsav Mahamahotsavatiti Ki Jai. His Divine Grace, Srila a.k.a. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Avirbhav Mahamahotsavatiti Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Sudhir Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. These prayers, pranams composed by Srila Bhakti Sudhir Dev Goswami Maharaj, very perfectly in 4 sets, encapsulate the divine personality known as His Divine Grace, Srila a.k.a. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Swami Sri Bhaktivedanta Prabhupadaya Te Namaha Gurvagyam Shirshi Dritra Shaktya Vesha Swarupine Hare Krishneti Mantrena Paschatya Prachyatarine Vishwacharya Prabhardaya Divya Karunya Murte Sri Bhagavata Madhurja Gita Jnana Pradayine Gaura Sri Rupa Siddhanta Saraswati Nishevane Radha Krishna Padamboja Bringaya Gurave Namaha. As I offer my humble obeisances unto His Divine Grace, a.k.a. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is Krishna's beloved associate and who came down to this plane from Goloka Vrindavan. Remember, you're saying, reminding us that on this day, everyone, because Krishna, Yashoda, she just had this child, this baby, and all the people, they want to come and celebrate, and their cowherds, they're bringing so many things, from the cowherd, anything related to the cow, but also other things. And we heard Srila Gurudev, perhaps in Hungary, he was speaking about this, and that so much wealth is received in excess that he is wondering, who will distribute all of this? Right? And we're told that one, we'll say, Brijbasi, came forward and volunteered to distribute that wealth. And we're not just talking about butter and yogurt, and we're talking about the wealth of Krishna consciousness. So what he was implying, as he says here, he came down from Goloka Vrindavan to distribute this wealth. When Srila Guru Maharaj was discussing Srila Saraswati Thakur's Brajamandal Parikrama, and he just concluded circumambulating the whole of Vrindavan, all the holy places, and everything there. Right? And we're told he faced palm and said, "I'm so unfortunate." What? He said, "I just circumambulated the whole of Vrindavan, and I couldn't find a single Vaishnav." And all the devotees were shocked, because people are accustomed to think normally like everyone in Vrindavan is a devotee, it's the land of Krishna, and Krishna, everything. And he's saying, I couldn't find a single Vaishnav. So Srila Guru Maharaj says, our Guru Maharaj's statements were mostly revolutionary. So this was not easy to accept or digest by his followers. So they thought, who's revered in Vrindavan as like a Siddha Purush, Mahapurush, the top level devotee? Certainly he must be a Vaishnava. And so they mentioned his name. What about so-and-so? And Saraswati Thakur said, yeah, he is an infant class. So whom had the renown of the local people of being in the highest position. Srila Saraswati Thakur, he's saying, he is an infant class Vaishnava. Again, this is astonishing, shocking to hear from his disciples, including Srila Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj is very honest, always. So he knows if Saraswati Thakur is saying this, it must be true. But what is it? And we hear so many things from our Guru Varga, and in the Shastra, script, so many things. And we can, in a similar way, assume that they are true, but identify what is it within us that is reluctant to embrace, to accept. We know that it requires some adjustment on our part. So Guru Maharaj had the opportunity to observe that person, whom everyone says is so high, and Saraswati Thakur says is in the beginning class. And he said when he went there, it was like a show. He had two attendant on each side, and like there would be some Bhagavat Katha or mention of Krishna, and he would start showing ecstatic symptoms, foaming, and one man would clean this way, another man that way. It had a certain element of show involved. And when he would allegedly go into some deep ecstatic state, within 5 minutes, he would come out of that and then be transitioning to very ordinary conversation and topics. And Guru Maharaj said, in observing this, he said, I would look at him, and then in my mind's eye, look at my Guru Maharaj, and I'm saying, infant class Vaishnava. And then I would observe this gentleman, and then look at my mind and see my Guru Maharaj, infant class Vaishnava. And he said, I came to this conclusion. He said, and I'm using Guru Maharaj's vocabulary. He said, this gentleman, by his practices, he's trying to ascend toward that plane described here as Goloka Vrindavan, the highest, and the Vaikuntha world, Guru Maharaj saying the southern hemisphere of Vaikuntha, and then the highest plane, Goloka Vrindavan. Right? Said, so by his practices, he's trying to ascend, to make progress towards that domain. Said, whereas our Guru Maharaj and Bhaktivedanta Thakur, they have descended from that plane to distribute that very thing that he and all such others are seeking. Right? So we do not take it that the position is achieved like sadhan siddha, but rather nitya siddha, an eternal associate of Krishna who is descended into this world to distribute Krishna consciousness. Taking the order of Guru on his head, Guru Bhagyam Shirishi Darjam, Shaktavesha Swarupine, empowered incarnation of Nityananda personified. He distributed the Hare Krishna mantra all over the Eastern and Western world, delivering and uplifting the fallen souls. He is the best of millions of Jagat Gurus because he is the personification of divine mercy. He has distributed the sweet nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam and the transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita all over the world. Like Prabhupada called his Gita as it is. Bhagavad Gita as it is. And he used to say, like, there are hundreds of editions of Bhagavad Gita. And I was on this particular party distributing books where we went to university libraries and really libraries with millions of volumes of books. And we would always check the card catalog to see what is there. We look on, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, before we approach the librarian. So in one really large university, I thought, I'm going to see how many, I'm going to count. Prabhupada's always saying, there's some, I'm like, I get up to like 50, 60, 70, 80. And I'm saying, look at that. And it occurred to me, in every one of those books, you'll see the Manmana Baba Mad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namas Sarvadar Mam Paritraja Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja. It will have where Krishna says, think of me, become my devotee, give up everything and surrender to me. So all of those additions, whatever their merits or demerits may be, no one upon reading those words decided to do either of those things. But then this other book comes along, has the same structure, the same everything given there. But when people are reading this, the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and they get to the, Sarvadar, give up everything and surrender to me, they're doing that. Right? So why? That's why he called it as it is, without any how do you say, ulterior motive of interpretation. Prabhupada was always railing against Mayavadis and Sahajiyas. And before his book was available, devotees, we have to have Bhagavad Gita class. They just sometimes got any Bhagavad Gita there was. And we're reading from that. This is in the, late 60s, mid-late 60s. And they can't tell the difference in some instances. So again, Prabhupada would be railing against Mayavadis, and particularly this Krishnamurti and Dr. Radhakrishnan, who was the president of India, that always taking Krishna's words and with some ulterior motive, using them to put some really poisonous misconception into your mind, heart, soul. I was at the Calcutta Book Fair. Remember that? It is huge, actually. On where the Esplanade, Maidan, yeah. And they have all these booksellers. And then I saw, there's the book, the Gita of Dr. Radha Krishna. I thought, that's the one Prabhupada's always condemning. And I was saying, what, does he really say these things? So I turned to the 18th chapter, those verses. And there it says, and it says, talking about Krishna saying, give up everything, surrender to me. And he said, it is not to the person, Krishna, to whom we are to surrender ourselves utterly, but to the unborn, impersonal, who's speaking through Krishna. At that point, Prabhupada would say, rascal. That's exactly what he wrote there. Immediately, namam duskritino mudha prapadyante naradama, the envy toward it is not the person Krishna, to eliminate the person Krishna, the unborn impersonal who's speaking through Krishna. Right? So, when we know that he appeared, Hare Krishna, Dhanyavad, in this world, and a family line that was favored by Nityananda Prabhu. It's mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat that Udaran Dutt and Udaran Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu himself, what did it say? Prema Bhakti Adhikar. He was so merciful toward them. He gave them the capacity to receive Prema Bhakti, Krishna Prem. And he descended in that family line. And himself describing the situation in his family, said that that sadhus were always coming over to their house, and his father would ask them, when they asked for some blessing, he would say, "Can you please bless our child that he will become a servant of Srimati Radharani?" That was their request. So he says in the dedication of one of his books to Gaur Mohan Dey, his father, who was a pure devotee of Krishna. And some of these sadhus visiting them, they're like Mayavadis or others, or from the Ram Krishna Society, and his father wanted nothing to do with them, couldn't tolerate anything. And so Srila Prabhupada, he's arranging meetings from Sri Gaudiya Math. Sometimes it's Srila Guru Maharaj, Goswami Maharaj, Madhava Maharaj. And he said once his father's thinking like, oh, those Ram Krishna people are coming again, But then when he hears the sort of Hari Katha and Krishna Katha, he's saying, oh no, it's Gaudiya Math. It's, the pure representation of Krishna consciousness. So he's very happy about that. And we know when Srila Prabhupada was a child, his childhood pastime was the Rath Yatra. And we have seen also in Kolkata, at the time of Rath Yatra, even, I guess it was 10 years ago, children with little chariots with Jagannath, Subhadra, Balabhadra on them, pulling them, their mothers on their side, they're having their own little Rath Yatra festival. They take them to our temple, circumambulate the deities, And I saw this lady accompanying her daughter. Her daughter looked like she was 5 or something, And so she's going like that. And I went, Jai Jagannath. And they're smiling, as I started to leave, the little girl like, no, wait. And on the back of the chariot, she lifted up the canopy, and there were sweets. So for prasad distribution, she understood, like, that's part of it. So we're told Prabhupada would do that, but he would engage all the local children. So he has his Rath Yatra cart and the Jagannath deities and saying, like, you'll play the mridanga, you'll be the lead singer, you'll be pulling the chariot, you'll be ringing the bell. So he organized everyone doing it. We see, so even as a child, he had this natural tendency to want to distribute Krishna consciousness. Right? So, but like many devotees, we can say there's this fantasy that you'll have some business and you'll become successful in the business, like, unicorn level success. And with all of that, well, you'll use that to, distribute Krishna consciousness to everyone in the world, and everyone will live happily ever after. And there are many variations on this theme, but it always runs something like that. I'll become very successful, make all this, and use that wealth to distribute Krishna consciousness. When I would be in Russia visiting different cities, and some people would say, like, oh, I want to do what Avadut Maharaj does. And I'd say, yeah, you should do that. Have these successful businesses, and then take all of the wealth from that for the promotion of Krishna consciousness, if you want to imitate what he does. But so he's thinking, he is by inclination, he's a inventor. He understood things about chemistry and medicine and Ayurveda, but also other types of treatment. And it was his hope that he could realize some success in that. And while in household and grihastha ashram, And as a chemist, one of his clients was Indira Gandhi. He knew her nickname, Indu. So when he later met her when she was the Prime Minister of India, he's calling her Indu, and she's remember going to his pharmacy and getting medicine, and she said, like, you didn't have to come personally. You could have sent one of your men. She was very humble and impressed by that. But anyway, in that place, a friend came to him and convinced him to go for a meeting on a rooftop in Calcutta to hear Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur speak. And Prabhupada described himself as a young man dressed in khadi, which is a way of saying connected to Gandhi's independence movement. He said, so I argued with my Guru Maharaj. I said, first we must achieve independence. And then after we achieve independence, then we can promote Mahaprabhu's culture, civilization. And he said, but my Guru Maharaj defeated me. He said it was very sweet and natural defeat. And he said, no, now is the time. Don't wait for any other social, political condition. Now is the time to promote the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Dev. And he said, so I would be back in my pharmacy doing different things, and then I'd stop for a moment and think, oh, such a wonderful, saintly person I have met. Have a vision of Saraswati Thakur, and then go back to his work. And his office in Calcutta, one place was called number 6 Sitakant Banerjee Lane. And there, so he has his office, residence, and there was an extra room. And he offered that to Srila Guru Maharaj for like a Calcutta branch of Chaitanya Saraswat Math. Because they had met before on Saraswati Thakur's Brajamandal Parikrama in a place called Koshi. And when that famous meeting and the ISKCON, opening of the ISKCON Chandradoya Mandir in Mayapur, they're talking about how they met each other and their times together. And they mentioned specifically that stop on the Brajamandal Parikrama when all the parikramis were told that Saraswati Thakur will speak in the evening, you can stay for that, or the sannyasis are going to conduct a parikrama to see Sheshai Vishnu, has some connection to the Brajagopis. So Guru Maharaj stayed, Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada, he stayed. And so Prabhupada turns to Guru Maharaj and said, I'm thinking, what will I see? And Guru Maharaj says his name is, I exercise. And they both start laughing, because that's what Saraswati Thakur said. Terms of, it doesn't mean on the other side, Krishna is there in his deity form, Sakshat Brajendanandana Hari, but our capacity is very small. That's what he means by I exercise. So we're told more valuable for us will be the scripture, and more valuable than that will be the devotee who can bring the scripture and deity to us in a living way. As we told last night, Krishna's appearance, Guru Maharaj said, he heard Krishna will be appearing in the heart of his devotee. So there's our deity and our capacity to appreciate the presence of Krishna. He's saying the presence of Krishna in the heart of his pure devotee is even greater. That's why with the permission of the deity, we tend to the devotee. So he's thinking like that. And gradually his business is failing. And different reasons are given for that. Some say that he and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, they're constantly discussing Krishna consciousness, and he's neglecting the business. Right? Because this is his real interest. So, and it is there when Guru Maharaj returns to Navadvip that in 1947 or so, he sends the brisky boy, Gorendu Brahmachari, who will later become His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Sudhir Govindadev Goswami Maharaj, to stay with him, learn Gita, other things, and also distribute his Back to Godhead magazine, which he started in 1944. And Srila Gurudev said, he would go out and preach to these people. Sometimes they would say very disturbing things to him. He would come back at the end of the day and tell Swami Maharaj what his experiences were. And then he would tell, all right, the next time they say that, this is what you say. One particular comes to mind, Yanti Deva Vrata Devan Pitrin Yanti Pitri Vrataha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Yajinopimam. They're Bengal worshippers of Ma Kali. So you'll see so many human skulls and sometimes wearing a garland. And sometimes you tell them, you want to be part of her entourage? You want to be in that picture? And the famous breakfast that they would have in the morning, those who know Prabhupada know he is taking like some, you could say like fried potato kind of thing with some puris, something like that, a little substantial in the morning. And Srila Gurudev has his muri, puffed rice. So they'd be together. I can just imagine the two of them. And Swami Maharaj would say to Gorendu Brahmachari, Gorendu, have some puris and some sabji. And he'd say, no, muri is sufficient for me. And Swami Maharaj would say, muri, that is simply cheating the stomach. So this sort of delightful banter they would have. And when at that opening of the ISKCON Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir, the grand opening, Srila Gurudev, in his talk, he said that he treats me like his affectionate, loving son, and he reveres my Guru Maharaj as his Siksha Guru. And after he finished speaking, Prabhupada said, what Govinda Maharaj said is true. I revere Srila Sridhar Maharaj as my Shiksha Guru, Om Vishnu Bhajan. And I look upon Govinda Maharaj as my affectionate son. So much genuine love and affection they have for one another. And even, so we say 1944, Back to Godhead. It's like 33 initiated by Saraswati Thakur, given the name Abhay. His name was Abhay Charan, named Abhay Charan Aravinda. So 33 initiated. 44, Back to Godhead magazine. And he's translating the Gita, so many things, but publishing Back to Godhead magazine. 55, Vanaprastha. His sister, who we had the good fortune to interact with from time to time in Calcutta, and take her once from Calcutta to Vrindavan. And I just say, in a sweet way, she looked like him in a sari. That's how identical they looked. So it always, like, to keep a straight face was, I can just see her looking at me going, saying to someone who spoke to me, Ki bolcha, like, because we, after like 40 hours, arrive in Mathura, and I'm saying, gee, maybe this is too much for her. The whole trip, she's sending prasadam to our bogie. We're in two separate bogies. There's a girl with her, and I'm with another devotee. We get to Mathura, it's like 3, 4 o'clock, and I think maybe she needs to rest. And she's like, Ki bolcha. What's he saying? And I'm saying, I don't know, do you want to continue to Vrindavan or do you want to stay and rest here? And like, Like, we go to Vrindavan, like this. And she's carrying these bags that are full of pots and pans and jars of pickle and, like it's something out of Charitamritam, right? She's going to Vrindavan and she's going to be the cook for her brother, who's now this worldwide acharya. And her name was Bhavatarini Didi. She had first initiation from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Second, she wanted from Srila Guru Maharaj, but he is not initiating at the time. So he referred her to Goswami Maharaj, who had Ritvik authority from Saraswati Thakur. And so she was his mantra Dika disciple. And she used to complain, like she'd make all these things for him, and he did not want to be in the mood of an enjoyer. So he would take everything she made and then mix it together, all of it. Sweet, sour, whatever it was, mix it all, and then that's how he would take. And she'd go like, Ore Baba. So this group is really extraordinary, and they're very close, and they have a lot of love and affection and respect and admiration for one another. So, in his Purva ashram as a grihastha, part of his duty is to get his children married. And we were once on the roof in Bombay, and he was talking about that time. And he said he made some arrangements. Like, it was very difficult. He finally made these arrangements. And he said, but my wife, she did not approve. Therefore, I said, let them all go to hell. Like, I'm done with this. And his sister came and said, Prabhu, you just preach. We'll take care of these things. You're just meant to preach. That's his sister. Saying, you're just meant to preach Krishna consciousness. All these family, my and others, will take care of that. So in 1955, he becomes Vanaprastha. He goes to Vrindavan. And there he is translating, also publishing. And he has got a Bedanam contract, means a life-long lease to do bhajan at Radha Damodar temple. Right? So they're out, and it's been changed somewhat over the years, but outside of his window, you can see the Samadhi and Bhajan Kutir of Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Shayam Rupa Kadahmayam Dadati Shapadantikam. And what Mahaprabhu had in mind when he came down to Sri Rupa is gifting that to the world. When will I have some connection with his holy lotus feet? Outside his window is the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami, his Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi. And in the temple of Jiva Goswami, his Samadhi Mandir there, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, and the deities of Radha Damodar. And really, he could see from there at that time the arati, everything. And in his room, he is translating the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita. Science of devotion will become nectar of devotion. Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam, message of the Bhagavat, Narada Bhakti Sudhir, many things he is translating. And in the words of Srila Guru Maharaj and his praise of Srila Saraswati Thakur, Vilasatu Rini Nityam Bhakti Siddhanta Vani, saying, may the divine voice of Srila Saraswati Thakur and his order and desire play upon our hearts forever. So he is always remembering that Srila Saraswati Thakur, notice, and from the time in Koshi, he doesn't leave. He wants to hear. He's serious about hearing. When other devotees from Sri Gaudiya Math would try and engage him locally, Saraswati Thakur would say, no, he will do in the future. You don't worry about him. He'll do in the future. So it's not that he started preaching in 1965 or 1966. He's always preaching throughout his whole life. And particularly this time in Vrindavan, that Vanaprastha leads to sannyas. And he is publishing his Srimad Bhagavatam, and he has this, internal inspiration to take Krishna consciousness to America. In his final days, sometimes Srila Saraswati Thakur would say, we did not reach Markina Lok, which was the way they talk about America. So he said, we went to England, someone went to Germany. He said, but Markina Lok, we didn't get there. That's what I want. So that, and Saraswati Thakur was saying, you're educated, you speak English fluently, you should preach Krishna consciousness in the English language, and Markina Lok, America's the target. So he's always thinking of that. And this Scindia, so-called Scindia steamship line, they send boats, really cargo ships with limited, accommodations, cabins for passengers. He's approaching the head of that company, a very pious lady, Sumati Morarji, I think it was that. And to give him passage. And we understand, for her, it's nothing. But she's not doing it because she's thinking, he's so old and fragile, and it's a 30-day journey by ocean. She's saying, he won't survive. Then I'll have the death of a sadhu on me. So she's always finding excuses to decline. Somehow, Krishna gives her the inspiration to finally agree. And with his metal, those Indian trunks, they're full of Bhagavatams, Samardhangas, kartals, his cooker. He had this 4-layered cooker they used to sell in Bhuleshwar in Bombay. It has like dal in the bottom. Then the next level, as the steam from the dal rises up, it steam cooks the vegetables. On the very top is the rice. So if you do it all right, as he knew how to do, when you're done, you have dal, sabji, and rice. And then and the top is, you turn it upside down, is a little wok. There you make your chants, the dal, the vegetables, and that he's got that. And he boards the Jaladuta, which means water messenger. Like we've heard of Hansaduta, Megaduta, Hansaduta, Rupa Goswami. The ship's name is Jaladuta, the water messenger. And it always says, we carry India's message of peace and goodwill. That's their logo. I mean, Yogamaya could not have scripted this better. And he enters that ship, and he's a meticulous record keeper and note taker. And for the passengers, they give you a little diary that you can keep. So, which I had the good fortune to be able to see and examine many, many years ago. And it has some ordinary things like marketing, how much he spent at the market, or postage, like probably really meticulous note keeper. But then, and you just like you're looking to, and then you get to a certain page and you start seeing like him expressing his interior, what he's thinking. Because now, because the ship first leaves Calcutta and then it goes to the southern tip of India, stops there, but now it's just out in the ocean. So all you see is water everywhere. Water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. Right? And then he starts writing personal entries, saying, today I'm feeling separation from my worshipable lords, Radha Damodar, Radha Madan Mohan, Gopinath. He starts naming Govinda, the different deities of Vrindavan. And he's saying, now I must depend exclusively on their mercy so far away from Vrindavan. Then he's further, the days are going on, and he says, daily I am relishing the nectarine of Chaitanya Lila, the source of my all vitality. So it means on that ship that's going across, he's more than reading, he's in the flow of Chaitanya Charitamritam. This is what's giving him strength. And then you would think this would be enough. In his 70s, this advanced age, putting it all on like, and then what do we get from Krishna? He has to always ratchet up the drama. It has to be a cliffhanger, right? That means that point where it's just like a heartbreaking point. Die to live. The die to live level of drama and pastime has to be achieved. Why? Bahi Vishijalahoy Bitore Anandamoy Krishna. That the heart in the depths of separation, apparent abandonment, achieves the greatest depth of ecstatic emotion of Krishna Prem. So in that situation, what happens? A heart attack. And perhaps another heart attack. And I remember, and I saw the part in the diary there, like across, it was like a gash across the pages. What you saw written up to the point where, and this was like that over 2, 3 day, 4 day period. And he has a dream. Because in one sense, you can say, he's saying, Krishna, Braja Jana Palana Asura Kulana, Krishna, he's supposed, Goptrite Bharanam Yata, the protector and shelter of the devotees. Krishna appears to him in a dream and says, remember, his name is Abhay. So he says, don't worry, Abhay. I've taken charge of the boat. And we hear that in the captain's log that he says, in 40 years of sailing the seas, I've never seen anything like this. The oceans turn into a pond. There are no waves. It's just we're gliding across a pond. And then the next entry in his diary, as he says, today I have made bati chachari, which is Bengali comfort food, He says, and I'm feeling, much better. Today the ship is plying smoothly. Right? So then he reaches America, and the first stop is Boston. And they can't disembark there. Right? So he's still on the ship. They're docked in Boston, but they won't allow them to disembark. They have to wait a day or so and then go to New York City. And at that time, he writes these 2 poems. One called Markine Bhagavata Dharma, Preaching Bhagavat Dharma in America. and the other one called Prayer to the Lotus Feet of Krishna. So I'd just like to read a little bit from the Prayer to the Lotus Feet of Krishna. There's this, it's a song, there's a refrain. Krishna tava punya have bhai, he punya karibe jabe, Radha Rani kushi have, Dhruva ati boli tomatai, Krishna tava punya have bhai. Because I say emphatically to you, my dear brothers, you will obtain your good fortune from the Supreme Lord Krishna only when Srimati Radharani becomes pleased with you. That's the refrain. Then just think, this is what he's writing. Before this is all, the whole Krishna consciousness movement, the worldwide inundation of Krishna consciousness. He says, Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is very dear to Lord Gauranga, the mother of Sachi, is unparalleled in his service to the Supreme Lord Krishna. He is that great saintly spiritual master who bestows intense devotion to Krishna at different places throughout the world. Sri Siddhanta Saraswati Sachi Shuta Priya Ati Krishna Sevai Jara Tulanai Say Mohanta Guru Jagatera Made Uru Krishna Bhakti De Tai Tai. And remember, the Krishna Tava Punya Habibai, that's the refrain. So after a verse, then back to that. My brothers, I say, you'll only realize your good fortune when Radharani is pleased with you. By his, Tara Icha Balaban Paschatete Tan Tan Hoy Jate Gaurangeranam Pritivite Nagaradi Asamudra Naranadi Sakale Noy Krishnanam. By his strong desire, the holy name of Gauranga will spread throughout all the countries of the Western world. In all cities, towns, and villages on the earth, from all the oceans, seas, rivers, streams, everyone will chant the holy name of Krishna. Tahale Ananda Hoy, Tabe Hoy, Digbijoy, Chaitanya Kripa Atishoy, Maya Dushta Jatta Duki, Jagate Sabai Suki, Vaishnaver Icha Purna Hoy. As the vast mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu conquers all directions, a flood of transcendental ecstasy will certainly cover the land. When all the sinful, miserable living entities become happy, the Vaishnava's desire is then fulfilled. Se karja, jay koribare agya jadi dilamore, jogya nahi an dinhin. Tai se tomar kripa, magatechi anurupa, aji numi sabar praveen. Although my Guru Maharaj ordered me to accomplish this mission, I am not worthy or fit to do so. I am very fallen and insignificant. Therefore, O Lord, I am begging for your mercy so that I may become worthy, for you are the wisest and most experienced of all. Tomara se shakti pele, Guru sabai boshtu mile, jivana sartak jari hoy, se seva paile, tahale suki hoyle, tava shange bhagyate miloy. If you bestow your power by serving the spiritual master, one attains the absolute truth. One's life becomes successful. If that service is obtained, then one becomes happy and gets your association due to good fortune. There's a quote from the Bhagavatam about Prahlad Maharaj and the mood of disciple approaching Narada. And Tumi mor chirasati bulia mayar lati kai achi janma janmantare e puna e su jog jari hoy joga jog tabe pari tuhe milibare. Lord Krishna, you are my eternal companion. Forgetting you, I have suffered the kicks of Maya birth after birth. If today the chance to meet you occurs again, then I will surely be able to rejoin you. Tomara milane bhai, abar se sukapai, gocharane guridin bor, kattabane chuta chuti, bane kai luta puti, se din kave have more. Oh, dear friend, in your company, I will experience great joy again. In the early morning, I will wander around the cowherd pastures and fields, running and frolicking in the many forests of Braja. I will roll on the ground in spiritual ecstasy. Oh, when will that day be mine? And so he's alluding to picnicking with Krishna in the Vrindavan forest. So it's really transitioning here. Ajije subidane tomar smarana belo, baro asha dakilantai, ami tomar nityadas, tai kori eta ash, tumi bina anya gatinai. Today that remembrance of you came in a very nice way. Because I have a great longing, I called to you. I am your eternal servant, and therefore I desire your association so much. O Lord Krishna, except for you, there was no other means of success. And back to the original one. I emphatically say to you, my dear brothers, you will get your good fortune. This is the way it's translated here. But Srila Guru Maharaj, when I was collecting various things like this and wanted to understand what he thought about it in terms of on an interpretive level. And so we read these poems. These are translated by devotee and very nicely. But Guru Maharaj can read something finer there. And so Guru Maharaj is telling us, and we were discussing this earlier in this line, Gauri line, the Guru is seen as Radharani's surrogate. She's the guru, the ultimate guru in Krishna consciousness, particularly in the Madhura Rasa line, right? And all its attendant clients. So it says that he is taking the order of Saraswati Thakur to be an order that is coming from Srimati Radharani herself. What Guru Maharaj sometimes calls Radharani's suggestion. So seeing Saraswati Thakur as her surrogate, he's not in a general sense saying, oh, my dear brothers, your good fortune will come to you when Radharani is pleased with you. He's saying, rather, he is approaching Krishna and saying, my dear brother, your good fortune will come to you when Radharani is pleased with you. So if you will help me, Radharani is ultimately my guru and has given this seva to me, the service. And I feel myself unqualified and unfit for such service. But I know you're the most qualified of all. Telling Krishna that he's qualified. You're the most qualified of all. So if you will help me fulfill this order of my guru, Radharani, then she will be so pleased with you and you'll get her association. So beautifully, he's enlisting Krishna in this seva. And so, but Guru Maharaj reminds us, when it comes to distribution, then we're back to, Nitai Karuna Habe Braja Radha Krishna Pave, or, Heno Nitai Bine Bhai Radha Krishna. That Nityananda Prabhu is the most magnanimous and merciful and the divine dispensation of Krishna consciousness. So he's saying, when Srila Prabhupada, in the middle of the ocean, offered himself wholly, the die to live on the altar of self-sacrifice, everything, he had wholly emptied himself of any other desire than the order of his guru. So he made himself wholly empty, offered himself on the ultimate altar of self-sacrifice. He's saying divine power came down as the Shaktivesh of Nityananda Prabhu for the ultimate merciful, magnanimous distribution of the Krishna consciousness movement and subsequent inundation in the world. So when adding this growing list of substantial observations, then it occurred to me, there's a famous verse in the Mahabharata, which is used to give credence, shastric reference to the avatar of Sri Chaitanya Dev. Right? It's mentioned in the Charitamritam from Gopinathacharya to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. But comparing this list, mysteriously, wonderfully, astonishingly, it's also equally applicable to Srila Prabhupada. It says, Suvarna Varna Hemango, Barangas Chandanagadi, Sannyasakrit Chamakshanto, Nishta Shanti Parayana. The Suvarna Varna, that's the line, the family line that got the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, that he liked. Something about them captured the heart of Nityananda Prabhu. He inundated them in divine mercy and Krishna praying. The gold, so-called gold merchants, Suvarna Varna. Then Hemanga means whose all his limbs look to be like golden. And we know Prabhupada every day had to have the mustard oil that is so dear to the Bengalis, the mustard oil massage before the bath. And he's already very golden looking, but you put all of this mustard oil and they're massaging him. He's like increasingly, radiantly golden. Hemanga, Suvarnavana Hemango, Baranga, Anga, Chandanagadi. And you see so many pictures of him. The amount of divine current flowing through him at any given point in time could generate lots of heat, right? So you see many pictures of him, his entire forehead, almost his whole head, covered in chandan for like a cooling effect, and also on other parts of his body, which you can't see. So Barangas Chandanagadi, covered in chandan like that. Then it says, Sannyasakrit Chamachanto, when he took sannyas and wrote a letter to Guru Maharaj saying, like a postcard from Vrindavan, and Guru Maharaj and Gurudev were reading at the mat, and he wrote, this is in that, after he had taken sannyas, he said, I am totally disgusted with human civilization. Like Vrindavan, wish you were here. A little postcard from Vrindavan. What did it say? I'm totally disgusted with human civilization. He said, the animals, I think, look more friendly to me. Different, and that's a whole other things Prabhupada observed many, many years there with eyes to see what was going on. And from America, he wrote Guru Maharaj when he got, again, deathly sick, looked like he's going to leave the world, and says, I'm thinking to come back and go to Vrindavan, live there. And Guru Maharaj wrote to him, no, America is your Prabhu Datta Desh. That's the place given to you by the Lord. You stay there. And when he got that response, he said, I take your words on my head as being the order of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Sannyasakrit Shanto, he takes sannyas to deliver the world, right? What was the last line? Nishta Shanti Parayana. And here we refer back to the Scindia steamship line, that little diary Remember, so what is the ship called? The ship's name? Jaladuta, the water messenger. Right? So it's carrying him literally over the ocean, the water messenger, it's carrying Mahaprabhu's messenger. And the running heads at the top of each page on the diary says, send the esteemed Srila. We carry India's message of peace and goodwill. Literally, they did. Not only in spirit, but literally, they carried Srila Prabhupada over the ocean to America to begin the worldwide inundation of the Krishna consciousness movement. And the last thing I like to say is that, so we know, and when he arrived there, the trunks of the Bhagavatam, Mridanga Kartals, goes in the park, he's chanting, people assemble around him who later become his disciples, help edit, publish his books. It ends up being in the millions worldwide. But when he arrived, he had, I don't know exactly how much, like $10 US dollars in cash. And these books, he would go around to bookstores trying to sell them as books. And some of them would take them. So you would find at that time in some bookstore in Greenwich Village or a few of these so-called brown Bhagavatams. And, it looked like after a year of that, and he's searching for buildings for an appropriate temple, asking for help from his godbrothers, and getting the silent treatment, basically. No one's willing to help him. And I know he finds some beautiful place on the Upper West Side. It's like $80,000. That would be like 800,000 or something, maybe, or more in modern. And they're finding that's, although they've been saying all along that this was going to happen, to Mahaprabhu's prediction, Bhaktivedanta Thakur's prediction, that no one thought it was going to sort of happen literally like that. And there he is, poised, positioned to fulfill this order of Srila Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Mahaprabhu, and they're declining to offer any substantial help to him. He's thinking he'll return. He goes down to the Scindia steamship line. They have a little chalkboard and say when the next ship is leaving. He's looking at that. And that's when someone who had become Hayagriva, his editor, disciple, sees him, the way he's dressed and everything, and says, "Are you from India?" And what did we hear Gurudev say in the first verse? He descended from Goloka Vrindavan. Then they connect. He becomes an editor. He knows many people. It starts gradually expanding. And then with so many temples, you can now greatly exceeded 108 temples. We used to say 108 temples all around. That would be an understatement presently. So this international success, that's Jagat Guru. Right? And in 1976, a year before he leaves the world, I've mentioned this before, like when you ask devotees what kind of a temple they want, they start about domes or things that look like Indian temples. And rightfully so, I would do the same thing. But when they would ask Prabhupada, what did he want? He said, I want a glass skyscraper that says ISKCON on it, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, not an Indian look. I want a glass skyscraper. And he got it in the middle of Manhattan. And it's 1976, and this Rath Yatra festival is approaching, and the New York media come to him, and they're asking him about, like the talking points for this festival. And He knows expertly how to flatter the Americans, the American ego, the New Yorkers, And so he says, they're all sitting there with their notepads, and he says, America is the most important country in the world. And they all go, yeah. He said, and in America, New York is the most important city. They're all from New York. New York's the most important. Yeah. Swami says New York's the most important. And in New York, Fifth Avenue is the most important street. They go, yes, Fifth Avenue, that's correct, Fifth Avenue. And the way Emperor goes, on that street, we are having our festival. Like, do you get it? And the most important country and the most important city and the most important street in the world, that's where we will have the Jagannath Rath Yatra, celebrating, ultimately the heart of Srimati Radharani as embodied in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Radha Bhavajuti Subalita. And so there, and we saw this, we were there, and he always rode on Subhadra's chariot. That's where he would be. And so you see the Jagannath chariot and Balaram and Subhadra and Srila Prabhupada, he would play his gong and sit on that chariot, and you see hundreds of devotees, if not thousands, on either side, with mridangas, kartals, and the street was shut down by the city of New York. And, the permit was there to shut down Fifth Avenue. And all what they call New York's finest, all these officers in blue lining the streets. And it's going to end up in Greenwich Village where he started everything. And you see this, and the skyscraper buildings, they're creating intense reverberation for the kirtan also. It's extraordinary. Right? And Prabhupada banging his gong and the devotee chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And many years after witnessing that personally, and thinking of these things, for 30, 40 years, it occurred to me that this was Krishna's gift to Srila Prabhupada for all that he had done. Right? If you ask him, it's all for the glorification of Krishna. He's the humble, aspiring servitor of his Guru Maharaj, and all of that is true. Both of these things can be equally true. But really, I'm saying no, who came penniless, who says in his other prayer, I don't know why you brought me to this terrible place where the people are overwhelmed by the modes of passion and ignorance. Tada rajas tamo bhava kamaloba dayasti, one of his favorite sections from the Bhagavatam. He said, but you must have brought me here for a purpose. Srinvatam swakata Krishna punya sravana kirtana. He's saying, so if you brought me here to dance, then make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance. And he signs it. The insignificant beggar, Bhaktivedanta Swami. That's how he signs. The insignificant beggar, Bhaktivedanta Swami. But his dance is incomparable. When some god brothers, Saraswati Thakur was always known as Prabhupada, then the news came that Swami Maharaj's disciples are calling him Prabhupada. And it was disturbing the god brothers. We can imagine. And so they come to him and tell Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj is saying, no, it is appropriate. And he backs them. And they go, well, he's also saying that we're just, in the temples ringing bells, right, and worshiping a deity, like we're just a bunch of bell ringers. And Guru Maharaj said, oh, the kirtan that he's leading is so grand and glorious. If you get the position of a kashi player, that means the kirtan, bell ring. If you're a bell ringer in that kirtan, how fortunate you are. So Guru Maharaj is always supporting him for these things that others they're of choosing anything and everything but to acknowledge the unparalleled success of the Krishna consciousness movement. I was recalling the other day, Srila Gurudev, we'd be in some particular place and hundreds of devotees are coming. Lalita was talking about the Caracas airport reception. But all of these devotees would be coming, what did Gurudev say, giving me their flowers and their tears and roses. And then Gurudev said, Swami Maharaj, he blasted like dynamite hole through the mountain-like ego of the Western world, and now we can proceed easily. And he said, and we are still taking his prasad. Like he's giving the credit to him. Even though it's all coming to him, he is transferring that as Vaishnavas do. On that tape, when Guru Maharaj is praising Prabhupada and saying how he's inundated the whole world with Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada, he actually goes, oh, Maharaj, you have done. Like he's embarrassed to be praised in this way by someone he goes, oh, Maharaj, you have done. And Guru Maharaj said, I'm not leaving my rooftop. Like, you're an ocean and I'm a pond by comparison. And they're just laughing and relishing this sort of exchange. And that's why Gurudev saying like, who can I tell, who would believe the kam pratikatayitam say sloka, who I sat with, and he's saying, Murti's cheating the stomach, and I was distributing his back to Godhead, this disguised as a mild-mannered householder, that he would spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. He would fulfill Mahaprabhu's Prithivite Ache Jatanagar Adi Gram Slok, the predictions of Bhaktivedanta Thakur, the order of Srila Saraswati Thakur. He's saying, who can I tell? Who would believe me? This is so astonishing. Right? And who considers me his loving, affectionate son. So then I thought, Krishna, he's so clever. It's like, yeah, it's all for the glorification of Krishna, but who came as an insignificant beggar, he ends up riding on a chariot. Guru Maharaj said, when you pursue Krishna consciousness, he said, don't expect them to hold a parade in your honor, right? Rather, everyone will try and discourage you from doing that. But here are the exception. Here's this parade, 3 chariots going down the most important street of the most important city, the most important country in the world, and there's Prabhupada playing his gong. It's Krishna's offering to him. Krishna is feeding his devotion. It's a celebration of the devotion, the pure devotion of His Divine Grace, a.k.a. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Avirbhav Mahamahotsavati Ki Jai Nitai Go Premanande. Hare Krishna. And we'll sing his favorite song. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya His Divine Grace, a.k.a. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Avirbhav Mahamahosavati ki Jai Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kacharya Satara Sri Srimad Sulvakti Sundar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai Vishnupada Sulvakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai Jai Saparikar Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Sundar Jiu ki Jai Shri Krishna Balaram Mandir ki Jai Shri Krishna Balaram Ji ki Jai the International Society for Krishna Consciousness ki Jai the Sri Chaitanya Chandradoya Mandir Mayapur ki Jai Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga ki Jai Sri Rup Sanatan Bhattu Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Sri Raman Reti ki Jai Sri Krishna Balaram Mandir ki Jai Navadip Dham ki Jai Sri Mayapur Dham ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki Jai Sri Gupta Govardhan ki Jai Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi ki Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavaranyas His Divine Grace Srila a.k.a. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Avirbhav Mahamahosavati ki Jai Sri Nandotsav ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Brinda ki jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Vimalabhadut Maharaj ki jai, Sannyasi Brinda ki jai, Seva Brinda ki jai, Sri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Brinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Abhirabha Mahamahotabhatiti ki jai, Sri Nandotsav Mahamahotabhatiti ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande. Hare Krishna. Some flowers. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada Abhirabha Mahamahotabhatiti ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
Srimad Divine Grace A.k.a. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Abhirbhav Mahamahotsavatiti ki jai. Sri Nandotsav ki jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Hare Krishna. Jai Rupa Vilas Prabhu. Dandavat. Rasananda Prabhu Dandavat. Achutananda Prabhu and Yarasabal Dandavat. The Gupta Govardhan Kitchen. A special Dandavat here. Praneshri Didi. Dandavat. Pavel Brun Prabhu and Masu Dandavat. Ananta Rupa and Lila Shakti. Dandavat. Krishna Chaitanya. Dandavat. Pavan Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat. Oh, Bharat, Chandra, and Kumkum. Hare Krishna. Dandavat. Wow. Hare Krishna. Dhananjaya Prabhu. Dandavat. Ananda Murti. Dandavat. Jai Sri Bhakti Asrai Dandi Maharaj. Dandavat. Nityananda Das doing the Russian translation. Dandavat. Madhavi Lata and Odessa. Dandavat. Ranga Didi and Germany. Dandavat. Indu Mukhi and Mitra Vinda. Dandavat. Gaurachandra Prabhu in Nadhokta, Russia. Dandavat. Leela Sundar Prabhu in Ukraine. Dandavat. Prabhu. Dandavat. Supriya Didi in China. Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Lakshmi Priya Didi in Ukraine. Dandavat. Kalindi Priya in Thailand. All right, Dandavat. And Abhazia are Dandavat. So all the Bhaktivinoda there. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Is Ananda Nidhi there? Huh? Yes. All right. Dandavat. Dhananjaya Prabhu in Rome. Dandavat. Ajita Krishna Prabhu in Kaselni. Dandavat. Dharani Sundari. Dandavat. Rasananda Prabhu again. And there's our, I see, Latin. Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj. Gopi Partur Padakamalayo. Dasa Dasa Anudasa. Jai Srila Bhakti Sevan Rishikesh Maharaj and Lakta Dandavat. Where is it? Dayavati and Balaram Prabhu Dandavat. Anindita Didi Dandavat. Nama Chintamani and Kiev Dandavat. Subal and Govindaland Dandavat. Hare Krishna. Is that everyone? Jai Vanchakalpa Drubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Sri Nandotsav Mahamahotsavatiti ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Abhirbhav Mahamahotsavatiti ki jai. Nitai Go Premanande.